Good evening and welcome to the Pompey Politics Podcast.
I'm Ian Tiny Morris.
And I'm Simon Sansbury.
And welcome to the show. If you're joining us live, it's Sunday evening, probably one of the last shows we're going to do in the half light as the gloom gathers. And although we're still not certain exactly when the general election is, Rishi's promised us it won't be the 2nd of May. Simon's little pun on it being the end of Theresa May caught a few people out and a couple of weeks ago. So we don't know when the general election is, but we are fortunately joined tonight by two candidates who have already put their hands up and said whenever it's going to happen, we're going to be an option to vote for. So Simon, can you introduce our guests?
So we are with the two Reform Prospective Parliamentary candidates, so poised and ready for the general election whenever someone decides to call it. Place your bets as to when that might be. I'm still not convinced it's not going to be in May. We have Mark Zimmer, who was with us actually on the in the hustings last year for the local elections in Eastleigh and Craneswater, but is the Reform Prospective Prospective Parliamentary candidate, Portsmouth South. Make sure I get those around the right way. Welcome back, Mark.
Welcome.
And joining him from Jersey, so a mildly international flavour, is the Reform Prospective Parliamentary candidate for Portsmouth North, which is Mel Todd. Welcome, Mel.
Thank you.
Okay, nice to have you both with us.
So if we can dive straight in then, gentlemen, can you tell us a bit about yourself and your political journey that has taken you to be standing as a Reform candidate in Portsmouth? And I'm going to give Mel first shot at that, seeing as we've heard from Mark before, but you can come after. So Mel, how have you come to be here?
Well, after military service in 1982, I moved to Portsmouth and became a police officer for Hampshire Police. So I've been in Portsmouth quite some time, 1982. And for me, I saw basically a deterioration in the quality of life of not only myself but also colleagues, friends, family. And I thought, well, instead of just sitting back and just relaxing, I thought it was about time to try and make a difference. And that's really the reason why I'm here now. I've now got the time to devote some effort into it.
And what attracted you to Reform?
Well, Reform actually reflects a lot of the policies reflects what I do, and it seemed to be the natural the natural thing to do is to join them and really to push that forward, and hopefully I can make a difference in that area. I've lost faith in the two normal parties, Conservative and Labour. And so it is time to have a look at the third way, and the third way, in my view, is a reform.
Marvellous, thank you, Mel. I'm sure Simon isn't going to take offence as a Liberal Democrat, but we'll glaze over that. And so Mark, tell us about your political journey and how you've come to stand for reform in Portsmouth South.
Hi, I'm Mark Zimmer, the Portsmouth South Reform UK PPC. I moved to Portsmouth when I was 16. My apprenticeship in the dockyard, 4-year apprenticeship in the dockyard as a fitter turner. I'm married, 3 children, 4 grandchildren at the present moment. And before becoming self-employed, I was a health safety manager at the Queen Street for Admiralty Quarters. And then I moved up to the QA Hospital, where I worked for a Chinese company, or the facade on the outside of the building. So that was in Cosham. And my journey into politics, well, it's more of a surprise to me and the rest of my family. My eureka moment was a dark Sunday morning, sitting in front of the telly, flicking the channels, thinking, oh, another cookery program, and then I somehow ended up on Talk TV watching some guy with a Sunday sermon, and I don't know what stopped me changing the channel, but within a couple of seconds, I thought, actually, this guy's starting to talk what I'm thinking, and that was Richard Tice. He was addressing the common sense in the room. Well, common sense, the elephants in the room, as seen by other people, and it wasn't just me. And to be quite honest, I think my wife was quite happy when she said, "Well, do something." I think she meant get out of the house and stop. So yeah, but I must admit, and that's how my journey started. And the more you get into it, the more you think, I didn't realise there was so much to politics. But I must say, it's a total respect to anybody else who's on that journey, no matter what party. There's a lot more to putting your head above the parapet than what you thought. So it's total respect to everybody, regardless of their party. But that's where my journey started.
Brilliant. Thank you, Mark. Simon.
Okay, thank you. So, sorry, hang on, I'm skipping ahead here. Sorry. So, tell us about Reform UK. Is it really just UKIP rebranded, or is there more to what reforms kind of all about? If I can stick with Mark for a second, and I'll come back to Mel.
Well, the UKIP. It's a totally different beast nowadays. It's UKIP was basically it was more of a let's get out of Europe. It was the Independence Party. Let's get out of Europe. Let's get some space between us and Europe. Believe you me, I don't dislike Europe. I'm on holiday once a year if I'm lucky, but it's always going to Europe. So it's not anti-Europe. But it was just with the UKIP party. Once we had the vote to leave, I think then Nigel Farage went over to the Brexit party with Boris Johnson to make sure we left. So the UKIP party stays as a UKIP. It's a totally separate identity than what we are. And they're still going. I think Neil Hamilton, I think he's the leader of that now. But they're still going. Whereas the Brexit, we thought we had Brexit. So once Brexit had happened, well, we thought it had happened. And that's why we capitulated in 2019. We found out it wasn't. The Reform Party, Reform UK, sort of come about. It was anti-lockdowns, not the first lockdown because nobody knew what was coming, so nobody could be blamed on that one. But it was the other lockdowns that were sort of against, and with the Houses of Lords, we wanted to reform that. Then it got to the point of thinking, hang on, we are so attached to the European Courts of Justice that this hasn't been done properly. So the Reform Party, and if you look on our logo, on our new logo, it's got the Brexit Party underneath. It was the Brexit Party, it's now Reform. We need to reform what wasn't reformed when we left.
Thank you very much.
It's come to me now. I mean, I agree with exactly what Mark said. Reform is an entirely different animal altogether, and now it's got more substance to exactly what it wants. It wants to reform everything right across the board, absolutely everything across the board. Unlike the UKIP and Brexit, which was really just to get out of Europe and to be masters of our own destiny. And that's why reform now, it's really got the basis of being something different and something better for the country.
Okay.
So, Mel, if I can stick with you, often reform is portrayed as almost a a splinter group from the sort of further right libertarian wing of the Conservative Party. Are those going to be the voters that you'll be targeting in the next general election, or do you think there's a broader appeal?
No, without a doubt, there's a broader appeal. And, I quite often object to this term of far right. I mean, far right has got these connotations of Nazism, which is nothing is further from the truth. We're actually going to be targeting every voter in the country, which is the reason why we're fielding candidates right across the country. It's very, very important to get ourselves known and to understand exactly what we are. We're not far right. Yes, we are on the right of the party, but we're not far right, and we're certainly not extremists. We just want to appeal to everybody across the board and try to make people understand what the country could be like again. I mean, I remember. I remember when I was a teenager in the 70s, but I understood through my parents and obviously what I was experiencing at school, and it was different. It was so much better then. But all that has been eroded now, and trying to grab back what was lost is I think my personal mantra. And I'm looking forward to addressing those issues.
Thank you, Mel. So Mark, if I can come to you, obviously Portsmouth North, or Portsmouth South, fewer Conservative voters to target in Portsmouth South. So how are you going to get that message across to those potential voters in the south of Portsmouth?
Well, it's the same with Mel. Actually, it's like when with the terminology far right, I'd never have anything to do with the far right party. We're more centre right, but there again, the centre has moved a tad to the left. So the far right label, no, it has been pushed upon. If anybody speaks out, it's not being far right. It's centre right, and that's how I see myself. So there's no splinters here. There's common sense, but there again, that's frowned upon nowadays, and that's when I go back to that old fable of the emperor's new clothes. You probably remember from last time. The moral of the story is it's best to trust oneself and be honest and speak the truth and know what is right. And that's all it is. It's not pushing our ideals upon anybody else, but it's like what Mel said. There are certain attributes, and if you look around, people say, well, these guys are a certain age. This is the freedom I want for my children and I want for my grandchildren that I've had. But I can see that being eroded. And that's why that is one of my driving points of getting here. As I say, without honesty, people often end up looking rather silly. But if you imagine nowadays, that little boy in that little fable, he would probably be arrested for a hate crime by just saying, the emperor's wearing no clothes. He's just telling the truth. But he'd be persecuted nowadays. And I don't want that for my children or their children. And it's not the way I want to live. And you ask who we sort of appealing to. We're appealing to people who think, well, nobody's listening to me. I felt that way. Nobody was listening to me. And the other thing is, you're just seeing your country taken apart bit by bit. And you think, well, who's going to stop this? You're waiting. I was waiting on the government to do something. I've been waiting. Nothing has happened. That is where the frustration comes into. Me and millions of other people feel that way. Our country has been taken bit by bit. Our self-identity, it's not being the word patriot as if it's a naughty word. It's not. I love going to foreign countries. I love their cultures, but I love mine too. And I like to people enjoy mine and share it. So it is, and then people often ask, "What about me?" And that's the bit that got me. And I'm thinking, well, I've got no answers. Actually, there wasn't a party I could go to and say, "Try it, listen to them." But yeah, that is part of my journey, and it's, I can go out in the street, you knock on a door, and the first thing people go, "Oh, you can't." So of course you can. It's not being offensive. Offence is taken. It's never given. It depends how you take it. And that's me. I'll stop there.
Brilliant. Thank you, Mark. Do you want to add anything there, Mel? I think all the points that have been covered.
No. I mean, yeah, they have been covered. I mean, we support each other. In any case, we often have good discussions on these issues. I mean, the only thing I would actually reiterate is that losing your identity is one of the worst things that could ever happen to a country, and that's something which I think over the years we've lost it now. We've lost it, and really trying to grab back, as I said before, that national identity, I think, is so important to our future.
Brilliant. Thank you, Mel. Simon.
Okay, we were kind of teasing on this at the beginning, weren't we? So it would appear from the PM's statement this week that the bets are off for a May general election. When do you think it's likely to be? Or I guess probably a better way to phrase that, if you'll forgive me for tweaking the question, is when do you want it to be? And I'll ask that first to Mel.
Right. Okay. Well, actually, I think it was established anyway that they missed the deadline for the election last week for a May election. Well, I think there's two schools of thoughts in this election. From me personally, I would like people to leave it as long as possible, because I think the death knell is there for Conservatives, and I think it's only left now for the Labour Party to ring that bell too. And the longer we leave it, the more likely that's going to be. I think we need more coverage. We need people to understand where we are and how we're going to develop. We need to increase our policies. It's really critical over the next few months for that to happen. So I think to leave it as late as possible would be to advantage of reform. So I think maybe November, December time could be the time for the election.
Canvassing in the dark.
Oh.
To add on to that one?
Sorry, you just broke up there, actually, Simon.
Oh, sorry. Anything you wanted to add on to that one, Mark? To the question about when
Well, personally, I'd say it probably be November, because we've got the American elections coming up on the 5th, I believe. It's scheduled to go on the 5th November. Now the Conservatives are going to think, well, I wonder if old Farage is going to be stuck in America while this happens, which would be a good thing for that's one of the bonuses for having it in November. But to be quite honest, they'd probably go for it's either the first Thursday in November, which would be the 7th, or the following on the 14th of November. I'd say that's probably it. Sunak, when he said no, it's not going to be on the 2nd, he didn't rule out it could be on the 3rd, but I don't think it's going to do that. It'll probably be the 7th or the 14th of November, because the American election, as I said, is on the 5th. And they're hoping that Farage is going to be out the country covering the American elections. But with all this in-house fighting, and what's there now, 6, 7 different parties within a party, who knows what's going to change?
Indeed, who knows? It's certainly risky one to put if you're going to put money on it. Okay, lovely. Thank you both.
Yeah, I not that I'm ever one to correct our guess, but you're both wrong because I called it early. It's going to be October the 25th. So, you know, we'll proceed on that basis, because anyone who's been following us for years knows that my predictions in terms of elections, dates and outcomes is pretty much infallible. But we'll move on to the next question before Simon checks his notes.
As is your recollection of your bit.
As is my recollection of my results. Yes, so we'll move strictly on, quickly on from that one. So
Don't worry, I'm not
reform.
bar chart out, Ian. It's fine.
No. Nobody likes a Lib Dem bar chart. We'll move on from that. So Reform has its first MP. So Lee Anderson has crossed the floor to become Reform's first MP under quite controversial circumstances. So I guess the question is, how did you view that episode and the way he's come to join Reform, and do you welcome him? And so can I ask that first, please, to Mark?
Yeah, as like you said, Lee Anderson joining Reform was under a bit of controversy. But that said, there was a lack of support from him from the Conservative Party, and it was what gave him the push. I think it could have been dealt with better by the Conservative Party, but him coming over, it's great. He has. People keep saying, well, he's gone from Labour, he's gone from Conservative. He's left Labour because Labour lost their colours. He's left the Conservative Party because the Conservatives have lost their colours. And that's where I am with Reform, and that's where he is with Reform. There is some common ground. But as we know with parties, if you don't keep on top of it, they change, and they change for the people who voted you in, and that's why he's changed. Lee's wording. Now, I'm a fine one to talk. I usually say how it is, and then I put my foot in it, and I think, well, actually, I meant to say that. But yeah, what you'll probably notice or hear me say something, you think, well, I don't think Mark should have said that way. But that's just the way I am. I didn't mean it with any malice. You know, education is a great thing. I wish I had a little bit more, but I'm happy where I am. It's knowing how to put things across without seeing crass or too blunt. And it did sound it. There's no ifs and buts about it when he said about the mayor. But I think if he would have said that the mayor's lost control of our capital city, in that sense, it's. But what he said, and he speaks it too honestly for some, but it's said with emotion and sentiment, and it's millions understood what he was saying. Millions would have said a different way of saying it, but they understood where he was coming from. We're sick and tired of seeing our capital city, just being run amok. It's being trashed. But the whole thing is, there are innocent people being killed in Gaza. There is innocent people being killed in Israel. I don't want it to see it, but how do we stop it? We can't just stop it and not do anything. So with what Lee said, going back to what Lee said, clumsy, but I'm clumsy. I didn't take it as a lot of people have tried to put it. I saw what was being shown up the Queen Elizabeth Tower. That was offensive. That was anti-Semitic. It was just, the whole thing is, the people taking part in the majority of people taking part in the protests, they've just been hijacked by the radical group, and it's using our freedom to protest, and it's now turned into a protest against a foreign state, and that foreign state is us. So the frustration Lee and millions of people feel, we just want to get things straight again. We don't want to see people dying and being killed. It's horrendous.
Thank you, Mark. So, Mel, in your earlier answer, you touched on that discomfort with seeing Reform sort of labelled as right or far right. How do you view the Lee Anderson episode? Same as Mark, clumsy language,
Yeah, look, simplistically, the man isn't well educated in terms of a university education, and so you have to make allowances for that. I mean, there's no question about it. It's purely down to semantics. It's how somebody says something. It's what's gone on behind the scenes or behind the words that you really need to understand. In the greater scheme of things, I don't think. Whereas you could argue that his language is a bit clumsy, but it's certainly not enough to penalise him. In a lot of ways, people. In a lot of ways, he wasn't actually saying what was really on his mind. Having said that, when he was asked to apologise or leave the party, essentially, or lose a whip, he refused to apologise. And that, to me, spoke absolute volumes. Because really, nobody likes an apologist. And historically, the people that apologise recognise they made an error. They lose out because of it. I'll go along on this thing about saying that London is lost. It is lost in my view. I had the misfortune to work in London up until last week or 2 weeks ago, and talking to people, it's shocking the true Londoners what's going on, and Sadiq Khan is absolutely shocking. And I'll just say, what has Sadiq Khan actually done for London since he's been in power? What has he actually done? Has crime gone up? Has crime gone down? Has housing gone up? Has it gone down? You can argue this. Have the police lost control? He's the police commissioner, police and crime commissioner. What's happened because of that? And what I see is, certainly as an ex-police officer, what I've seen going on, I'm absolutely disgusted and actually ashamed to be associated with the police service under what I've seen. And unfortunately, Sadiq Khan is responsible for that. And so, Lee Anderson, I didn't think he went far enough in that respect.
So I guess an addendum to that question then, because we did look at the exact wording of it on a previous show. I think his statement was that Sadiq Khan was controlled by Islamists, which obviously is perhaps taking a different angle to the fact than he's just doing a terrible job. Do you think that was a fair statement, or was that some more clumsy language?
Right. Yes, that's clumsy language. It's not. I don't think he's controlled by Islamists. I think he's controlled by Islam and controlled by his religion. And I think religion should have no place in politics. No place at all. I think it would just be purely secular, and that's it. And I do believe that he is controlled by Islam and his beliefs.
Thank you, Mel. Mark, do you want to come in on that one?
Like Mel says, is the control is MPs in the Houses of Parliament, the Houses of Commons, that were kept in because these people were basically, I wouldn't say rioting, but they were protesting outside, intimidating. They intimidated the Speaker. The Speaker changed the way Parliament ran. It's protesting for another country within our country, which changed our parliamentary way of how it's always been. So that pressure, and again, it's like, no, you shouldn't have religion coming into politics. We've had that. We had the Roman Catholic, Protestants. We're just about getting over that. We don't need another load of that again.
Thank you, gents. I shall pass you over to Simon.
Okay, so with Reform polling about 12% in the polls nationally, But with first past the post, this is going to be unlikely to return you any MPs. Do you think a strategy of standing in every constituency is the right one, or would you fare better targeting particular but fewer constituencies? And if we can put that first stream down.
Yeah, look, actually, 12%. I mean, the latest poll, I think it was this morning, was showing that we're polling at 14%, which is above Lib Dems. I think by 2%, I believe, and only 6% short of the Tories. I think in 2 weeks' time it'll be even different. I did mention beforehand. I think it's important that we have a widespread, and I think it's important that we field in every constituency, and that will give us a good idea of what we're up against and where the support lies. Yes, if we had fewer seats, fewer constituencies, then we could devote a lot more resources to those. However, I support Richard Tice in this area, and I think, let's go right across the board, every constituency field a candidate.
Okay. Interesting point. Are there also benefits from standards?
I can't hear you, Mark.
I think we
Simon.
may have just lost Simon's audio there. So, Simon, you just went extremely quiet.
Oh, did I? Okay. Can you hear me now?
I can just about hear you. I don't know if it's gone.
Oh, we all right? You got me?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've got you
Back
now.
in the room.
So,
Okay. I'm not floating out there
Sorry,
somewhere.
I didn't.
Oh, yeah. No, don't worry. I'll do Mark. So the
I can
same
just hear you.
question.
Yeah,
What's your thought about the polls?
Yeah, no. Again, we're going to stand in every constituency, and that's our plans, and we're going to stick to it. And you can't reward a faux Conservative government to let it carry on. Well, we've had up lives in lies. In fact, we're going to be doing them a favour. We're going to give them the chance to actually recoup, reflect, and find their roots again. And to be quite honest, if we had a true Conservative government or party, I wouldn't need to be here. Time and money out of my own pocket. I'm doing this for my children and for their children. It's a bit like the old Indian proverb. Yeah, I heard it years ago. This is how I see me. Blessed he who plants trees whose shade he will never sit under. That is me. We're building the foundations. So yeah, we're going to stand in every constituency. That's the plan.
Okay. And just what are your thoughts, either of you, about how first past the post treats incoming parties, so newer parties? It kind of really doesn't favour you. Did you want to come in on that, Mel?
Yeah. First past the post. I mean, I think we're one of only 2 countries in Greater Europe that has first past the post. I think it's quite insidious, really, because it doesn't truly represent the voting public. I mean, you imagine. I think it was in when UKIP were really pushing. I think UKIP got the second most votes in the country, and yet didn't field any MP. That's truly shocking. So it's about time that we bit the bullet, I think, and went to a proportional representation. I feel quite strongly about that.
Okay, thank you. Anything to say on first past the post versus PV, Mark? PR, sorry.
No, I'm totally with Mel on that one. But again, it's one of the quaintnesses of being British, isn't it? At the present moment, it is what it is. yeah, it could be better reform. That's it.
So, gents, if we look at Portsmouth, we have got two relatively strong, high-profile MPs. Penny's on the front bench of the Conservative Party and Stephen on the front bench of the Labour Party. So I guess the question to both of you is, if you were successful in this campaign, how would you ensure that probably as one of a small number of MPs, you would be able to get the leverage that those two players could to get the best deal for Portsmouth? So, Mark, can I ask that to you first?
Right. Okay. Yeah. No, Penny and Stephen are both really nice people. I don't say that surprised because they are, and I've respect for both of them. Stephen having to deal with the pro-Palestine pressure put on him and his office being surrounded. Now that must have been scary. And you got Penny that during the King's coronation. Well, that was made me quite proud to be British. Actually, she played her part to perfection during the ceremony. So again, it was the whole thing is it's the parties. I will get back to your question, but the two great parties, you had Labour, and the Labour colour is the colour of the blood of the angry workers. Unfortunately, now it's it's now become the party of the very annoyed workers. They've lost their way. So that's, and with the Conservatives, what happened? The party showed the world that you couldn't mess with the UK territories. Now the party has run out of fingers to plug the FUD for legal immigration. What we need is a party with got pro-growth policies. A party that's going to support local business people. You've got the tax codes for the for self-employed people. Everything's stacked against them now. To have the smaller businesses which create wealth, create an income, create growth. That's what we need. Everything's been so restricted. We want to open up and get people back into work. There's policies out there. I won't go into all those, but by just making it easy for people to move on, more people will try businesses, and our small businesses are what drive our economy along. We're seeing shopping centres closing. Yes, our shopping has changed, but let's not get rid of these shopping centres. Let's use them as an area that's community. Let's put the unity back into the community, and that's the whole point of it. So yeah,
Right,
I'll be
Mark,
driving it.
I'm going to tickle you here because we're going to give you a chance on the next question to outline your three favourite policies. But
Okay.
why would the people of Portsmouth South, what would you bring that Stephen Morgan can't?
I think it is exactly pro-growth. Now Stephen's great is great at meeting people and to be open, because in Portsmouth South we've got quite a few housing developments going on that haven't really been brought into the open. It's like the Pompey Centre. Now they're looking to have the footbridge put from Fratton Station over to it used to be B&Q, but then that opens up. They want to have 500 dwellings there, I believe, 500 dwellings on Pompey land, which is quite a big piece of land. And then you've got St James's. It's just been open, saying, look, this is going to cause congestion in that, and we need homes. We do need homes, but let's manage it correctly. I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Mark. So, Mel, it sounded to me a little bit, I was worried for you there for a second that Mark was a bit of a Penny Mordaunt fan, and perhaps he was backing her over you. But let's see. So what do you think you can bring that Penny can't?
Well, look, Penny is a great orator. I've met her a few times. I've had a good opportunity to have a chat with her. Yeah, she's very pleasant indeed. But I've got to say, there's a big difference between a constituency MP and the MPs in Parliament, their role in Parliament. I don't think she's not in the front line. Let me assure you, she's not in the front line in Portsmouth North. You can't get a meeting with her. It's always through a member of staff. For me, what can I do any different to her in the constituency? No, I think she's in the constituency. She's doing a fair job. In particular, in my area, I mean, where I live in Portsmouth North, I live in Drayton. It's full of older people. And they've always voted Conservative, and they probably always will. I think the majority was absolutely huge at the last election. So what I bring different? No, there's nothing that I can put my finger on just now. But as I said, it's just a constituency MP is different to an MP in Parliament.
Perfect. Thank you, Mel. And I shall throw you over to Simon for our final question.
Okay, so here's the one. Here's the time to get the shop open and start with the wares. So of the policy, so we took a look at the reform draft our contract with you. So refreshing that it's a document that sets out to say that it's a draft. So therefore it's a work in progress. But of the document that's already there, what would you say are your top three out of that document? And I was trying to pick which one of you to go for, depending on which one of you looked like you were least ready to answer. Well, I wouldn't be that cruel. I'll go for Mark first, and we'll come back to you, Mel. Mark, your top three from the document.
And I will be counting, Mark, so don't try and slip 6 in, because I've worked with you before.
It took me what Simon actually meant then, going for the most unready one. Got me. I'd say my 3 would be housing. Housing, obviously in Portsmouth, it is a priority. Education, and the veterans. The veterans. That's my 3.
Okay. And is there anything specific policy areas that most excite you, or you think are most relevant?
Well, I think use it because we are as a very dense. As we know, I'm not telling you how to suck eggs, but we know that Portsmouth is very dense and housing. What we don't want to do, I will coin a phrase. I think it was from Gerard that we don't want to be creating a future slums by. They've got to be managed correctly, but they are needed because we do need homes. But it's and this is like we've still got to tackle the illegal. There are illegal HMOs out there, and I know firsthand of a couple which I'm looking into. They tackled. But housing, I know I mentioned about the shopping centres. We've got the retail. In fact, a good example is what they've done in Palmerston Road. They kept the facade, but we're going to have that built into that facade. It's the old Debenhams. I think it's a brilliant idea. But it is using what we got wisely rather than just using it up for second-rate accommodation. So that's on the housing side of it. There's a few other avenues to go down. I'll leave it at that. I'll have Ian.
He's not poised like a coiled zebra. I think
yes.
As long as you stuck to 3 and didn't try to go for 6, I think that's what he was worried about.
Pretty much.
So, but don't worry, you can breathe a sigh of relief now. I'm gonna now turn to Mel. So Mel, your top three from the draft policy. What are your three favourite top three?
Well, I wish we had a longer time, but the three are NHS, the policing, and energy. I've got experience with the NHS. I've got family members in the NHS. Policing, obviously, I spent years and years and years in the police, and also energy, which is my current role. I'm a commercial director of a large renewable energy company. So there's so many things here that I can talk about, but let's very briefly look at the NHS. One element of the NHS which I'll stop in a heartbeat, and that is the use of interpreters. The NHS spend over £120 million on interpreters every year. That's enough for 4,000 nurses, and those are real figures. Those are facts. So what could you do with an extra 4,000 nurses? I mean, this is absolutely astonishing. I won't go into any other element of the NHS. I'm in particular looking at policing. Policing. When I first joined, I said 1982, I got promoted very quickly to a sergeant, and sometimes on a Friday, I used to field anything up to 20 police officers on a Friday night. And we had an almost equal amount in Southsea Police Station, another equal amount in Fratton Police Station. So we could potentially have up to about 60 police officers. Now, I know for a fact that recently, on a night shift on Friday nights, they could field only 5 police officers. 5 police officers from 60 to 5. Is unbelievable. Everybody I talk to, everything's to do with information gathering, intelligence gathering. We had beat officers. I know it's old hat, but it actually worked. We had a beat officer on a beat, and he got inside information from parents, from neighbours, from even youngsters that give us information. And we reacted to that, and the crime stats prove it. They prove it. Crime does reduce because of it, and we do prevention rather than cure. It's prevention. That's what we're trying to do. Always do. That was part of the Police Act in 1829, and we should go back to that. And again, I'm astonished at the inaction of police officers. Police officers taking the knee, for goodness sake. And we're supposed to be impartial, and we should be that impartial right across the board. Impartiality speaks volumes, but we haven't shown that. We haven't demonstrated that. Okay, so this is one, the other value. The other one is energy. I just need to get this one in. I specialise in all forms of renewable technology. I'm a lecturer in almost all of them. And going down this route of, say, heat pumps, and encourage this heat pump, this is going to be the solve all our problems. Actually, it won't. Heat pumps only work on certain houses, new houses mostly. They will not work on a terraced house in Portsmouth. They will not work in my house. I'm in an Art Deco house. It will not work. It can't work. It's impossible. And yet we're pushing this. This is just sheer madness. And I don't understand why people don't listen. The figures are there. The actual coefficient of the performance for heat pumps are there. And it shows you cannot heat a terraced house or an older house at all unless you throw so much money at it to make it thermally well insulated. Oh, these things drive me insane. But anyway, I better step off our platform now.
No, to be fair, Mel, you are stood on a platform. That is part of standing for Parliament. So thank you both, gentlemen, for answering all of those questions. I guess it would only be fair to close this show out by offering you a few final words in terms of what your hopes are for the rest of the year. And again, note the word few final words, Mark. I will throw first to you.
Oh,
sorry. Oh, yeah.
You're going to cut me short. It's all right, short anyway. Basically, my final words is vote for who you feel. Vote for who you feel represents you and your future. But most importantly, vote. That's it.
Can't say fairer than that, Mark. That's very precise. And so Mel, same opportunity for yourself. You find the words as to what you're hoping for the rest of the year.
Final chance for me is, look, just give us a chance. Just vote for reform. Give us a chance, and let's see if we can make the difference that you need.
Perfect. Extremely concise. So thank you both for joining us. You've been listening to the Pompey Politics Podcast. I've been Ian Tiny Morris.
And our guests have been Mark Zimmer, the Reform Party candidate of PPC for Portsmouth South, and Mel Todd, the PPC for Reform for Portsmouth North. Thank you both.
Thank you.
And I've been Simon Sainsbury. And as Mark said, making sure you do vote. Please do remember, in this year's local elections and the general election, whenever it actually happens, you will need photo ID to vote. So please do make sure that you have photo ID, and you can find out information about that on the Electoral Commission website or from your local council. So please do make sure you have that so you're eligible to vote. But I've been Simon Sainsbury. Please join us next week at 6:27 when we'll be taking a look at Tuesday's full council meeting. So thank you very much for listening. Thank you to both of our guests, and we'll see you next week. But don't forget to like, follow, comment, subscribe, send tea, send biscuits.
5-star reviews.
5-star reviews, those are all great. But biscuits and tea are also really important. See you next week.